Bonjour tout le monde, ça va bien? Ouais, excellent, j'aime ça. Bon, bienvenue à la 15e édition de Creative Mornings Montréal. Ce mois-ci, on parle d'héritage, de patrimoine. Et puis, on a choisi quelqu'un pour vous en parler qui est assez qualifié en la matière. She was very involved with C2 Montreal at one point, and she's been doing something a bit in the background that the architecture aficionados might know of, but that I was not quite fully aware of. She's been changing places in Montreal, and she's been doing that with her husband. So I'm going to let her tell you that tale and what it entails in terms of heritage. Without further ado, Viviana de Loera.
Thank you. Wow. It's quite a crowd. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, I'll try not to sigh or sneeze too loud. Well, thank you to the incredible Creative Mornings team for helping putting this together this morning. It's quite amazing. It's actually a really great opportunity for me to participate with the Creative Mornings team, with Francis, who he's shared that we've known each other since 2012 about. We met through C2 Montreal. So it's a pleasure for me to be, for us to collaborate in this way. I have to share with you that this is especially quite a beautiful moment for me because in this past September, I attended a retreat called Do Lectures USA, where I had the privilege of spending 3 days with incredible people, and one of them was the founder of Creative Mornings, which Tina Roth Eisenberg, I want to make sure I pronounce her name right, and she's huge on Twitter, @SwissMiss. Follow her, she has incredible information all the time. So it's really special for me to sort of, I feel like I've come full circle. I found out last July I was going to attend that event, and then now here July again, I'm here, after meeting her not too long ago. So, so thank you for sharing your morning with me. Really, honestly, thank you. Now I hear that there are a few faces here from C2 Montreal. I'll try to scout you out here. Thank you so much. I was almost about 1.5 years. I was their social media architect, which is another of my hobbies. And so it was really, thank you so much, guys, for being here and supporting me today. It means a lot to me. As I tell you my story, in honor of this month's theme, Heritage, I would like to invite you to reflect with me with this question. What role does heritage play in your life? Now, when I was looking at how I was going to talk about heritage today, I knew what the main parts were going to be, but I just kept staring at the word, and I really loved that the word heritage is composed of 3 amazing words: her, it, and age. And for me, that started to speak and in a really personal way, and you'll see as I tell my story. So I invite you to think about this as you listen to my story. Now, as Francis said, I am Viviana de Loera, and I do consider myself an artist because calling myself an architect or a designer just, it seems too constricting almost. And so I like to do a lot of things. And a lot of it comes from studying architecture. I studied architecture in San Luis Obispo and Cal Poly. For those of you who know that area, is between Santa Barbara and San Francisco. It was the most amazing 5 years of my life. I truly recommend you go and travel the central coast of California. It's gorgeous. I had the privilege of spending quite a bit of time there. And my architectural education really did begin to foster all of a realm of creative things that I'm involved in. And so today I'm here to talk to you about my architecture side. I am half of Mark and Vivi. Mark and Vivi is a design build studio that purchases, renovates, inhabits, and sells homes. We are essentially the owners, the designers, and the builders of our own projects. Here's Mark, here I am. And Mark is here in the room, actually. He's down here. There might be some questions that you have later on that I will not know how to answer, so he will be helping me out with that. Now, I'd like to think that we have a bit of criteria or principles that we go by, and we came up with this list together for this presentation. Essentially, our principles as of today are that we look for affordable urban infill spaces. These tend to exist, at least here in Montreal, these tend to exist in transitioning neighborhoods. And we transform these spaces in an environmentally friendly manner. It's important to us. It was something that was fostered in me in my education in Cal Poly. So I love continuing that as much as I can. And the beautiful thing about this is that we do it in collaboration with a cast of colorful characters. And I would love to share with you that actually here you'll see Eric, Brees, and Joe. Joe is not present here, but Eric and Brees are. They're in the middle of the room here. You can raise your hands. Thank you guys for being here. They're truly an amazing, amazing team to work with. We had the privilege of working with both Eric and Brees in both our first and second project that, as you'll see, I'll tell you about in a little bit. Amazing, amazing, multi-craftsmen, both of them, hard workers. We really lucked out. You know, there's so many horror stories that you hear from trying to find that great team. We found the right team, and right from the start, it's amazing. We really appreciate their hard work, and you'll see some of their work as I share with you the presentations. I'll click here. Now, before I continue, there's something really important that I must share as a disclaimer of sorts. Now, even though I'm honored here to represent the theme of heritage, I like to state that Mark and I are not heritage experts, and we have an extreme respect for the field of heritage, especially here in Montreal. It's a field entirely in itself. If any of you in the crowd are from the city, or anybody that works, with heritage architecture, we completely respect that. You'll see that even though we're not experts in heritage, it has played a very important role in the work that we've done, which is why it's an honor to represent that theme today. Now, I like to say that we stumbled upon heritage because we really did in our first project, which is an 800 square foot rundown space built in 1920. It is located in the light industrial area of Verdun. And it's funny because when we applied for the permit, they showed us this picture here, a very blurry picture, and we're like, oh, that's not how we've seen it on the street. Yeah, the signage has been removed, no more tires. So it was a tire shop for quite a bit of time in this neighborhood. So we're like, oh, great, that's wonderful. And then the city told us, yeah, so under Verdun's heritage design guidelines, you can't touch the facade. We're like, okay, but we can make it into our home. Yes, you can make it into our home. Great. So now the challenge was that we were stuck with this huge storefront window for our home. Now, to most people, I remember telling my mom this, and she's like, what are you going to do? That's horrible. You can't have that as your home. And of course, again, that word, I use the word artist lightly, but in this case, it became we turned it into a challenge. We could have fought the city. We were new to Montreal. We're like, okay, if we're back in California in the States, we'd definitely try to figure out to get around this. But here, we sort of accepted the challenge, and we're like, okay, what can we do with this? Let's have fun with this. And so as a way of giving back to the community and getting to know our neighbors, we decided to turn it into a creative project, and we called it La Facade Art and Architecture, which was a temporary exhibition space for contemporary art and experimental architecture for local artists. And it was amazing, amazing experience. It was often when we didn't want to put bars, it was a typical huge window, oh, you're going to get robbed, people are going to, try to come into your home. We're like, well, we'll deal with it. We were really we didn't feel like we were in any danger at any time. And, maybe not everybody would have felt the same way, but we were open. Like I said, we were open to this challenge of living in this space. And we really wanted to feel like we owned our home, no matter where it was, no matter how tiny it was, the space was, we maximized the space, as you'll see in a couple of pictures. But what was interesting about this is that we would turn off the television because it was more interesting to listen to the conversations that people would be having just outside our window, of trying to figure out what it is that we were displaying. And at first, before we got artists, we put our own work up, but really sort of bizarre things just to sort of play with people's heads. And that was quite fun. Another little anecdote is that we always had people kind of knock at our door thinking it was an actual art gallery or a coffee shop or something. And we're like, oh, hi, can I come in? Like, well, hi, how are you? No, actually, no, this is our home, but I would love to make an appointment with you later. It was sort of, so we did that quite a bit at first until our neighbors got to know each other, or got to know us, I should say. And here, this is what we did to it. It would look like very much like an industrial space, and we gutted everything completely, and we really just left the bones, meaning the 4 exterior walls and the main structure. And it was an incredible experience to expose what was there. It was nasty. Eric and Breeze could tell you the stories of the stuff we found once you start opening stuff up, and oh boy, you find all kinds of fun stuff. But this particular picture was taken with our iPhone just real quick when we one day after work where we went to the site. And we just love seeing, you could really just admire the history of how they would, non-insulated, it was freezing in there, non-insulated space, but where windows used to exist or what kind of paneling they would use for actual insulation. So it was fun you learn a lot when you do things yourself, that's for sure. And this is a quick picture of what it looks like today. We bought this house in 2010, and we lived in it for about 1.5 years, almost 2 years, and we recently sold it to an architecture couple. Now, like you said, like you see in this picture, we really did try to maximize every space, and we would come to Eric and Breeze. We're like, okay, so we have a lot of books. Where are we going to store them so they don't feel like we live in a overly crowded library? And they really did create fun little niches and storage spaces for us to be able to still admire our books and not feel like they were living on top of us. So we really did maximize every space. And Eric and Breeze helped make a lot of the custom cabinetry because to maximize the space, we had to really play with that. And we brought an exterior, a typical stairway that you would see in an exterior, exit stairway here in Montreal. We went to these same guys that do it for the exterior buildings, and we said we want that into our home. And trying to get this inside the house was quite fun. So now, before I go into our second project, I like for you to reflect with me, because and it'll become evident why I'm asking this question in the next few slides. But I would like you to think with me, what does your existing material life say about you? And again, this will make more sense once I start talking more about the next story. In our second project, located on Grand Trunk Street in the transitioning neighborhood of Point St. Charles, heritage played a very emotional and significant role, which is why I'm asking this. I'm asking all of us this question. I am now going to tell you about Albert, a man I have never met, a man I will never meet, a man whose home I now live in, an inherited home. We bought this house from Albert's heir, his niece, on that condition that we buy the house, quote unquote, as is, which literally meant that we were inheriting all of Albert's material possessions as he left them. Clothes, suits, closets, his kitchen. Like you could tell he hadn't been living in this space like he had been living in it for years. So as far as we know, the little bit we know about him, he was an 85-year-old man that lived here with his family for many, many years, and then towards the end, he lived here on his own. It was incredible. I didn't think we really knew what we were getting into, to be honest. I think we really wanted the home, and we just, we'll take it as is, whatever. We'll clean the stuff up, dump it. When we first saw the house, which you see here, this is one of the first pictures we took, and this is a picture I borrowed from Google Street View, so you can see what it looked like before, and I'll show you what the facade looks like today. It felt like we had stepped back 50 years. and we were immediately drawn to it. Most people, if I had walked my mother through this, she would have been like, "You're crazy." But Mark and I walk into spaces like this, and Mark has, I think, a different vision than I do. But he goes in here, and he talks to Eric and Breeze, and we're like, "Yep, well, we already know what this is going to look like. Great." For me, I fall in love more with the details of what we find, and that's where we sort of balance each other out. Mark looks for the future. I like going back to the past and really diving into the present a bit. So it was a pleasure to try to figure out, in a respectful way, how do we excavate, how do we sort, what do we donate, what do we discard? For me, that was, when I mentioned the emotional experience, that was the emotional experience for me. Because I tried to imagine what it would be like for some stranger to, for whatever reason, imagine how you left your space this morning before you came. Imagine that for whatever reason, you could now go back to your home and I don't want to get too morbid here or too sad, but I mean, it does happen, We heard the unfortunate story of what Francis introduced of the woman who passed away, and so it happens, it's a reality. And so for me to go through this stuff in a respectful way, I thought about it. I mean, there was times when Mark would go, to buy stuff, and I'd be there at the house by myself sorting things, and records and 8-tracks and suits and coffee cups and record players everywhere. And I would often, and I hope it doesn't freak anybody out, but I would literally, and I think I shared this with some of you in the audience that I know, I would be talking to these objects, and I'm like, what the hell is this, Albert? It was these things that were like just all over the place, neatly organized, and it was a way for me to respect this space. Why I felt the need to do that, I don't know, but it was something for me that was very important for me. We found his Elvis collection, which was great, hence why if you listened to a little bit of the Elvis as you were coming in, thank you to the Creative Mornings team for helping out with that. And so it was great, and I actually, most of these songs, I went into iTunes and bought the songs, and now I'm listening, and I'm really like living Albert's world now, which is great. It introduced me to, all kinds of new things that I did, or songs of visions of Elvis that I didn't know. There were other records that we found, not to get too sidetracked, but there was this, I found an old Neil Diamond record and an old Kenny Rogers record. I don't know if any of you are, I'm dating myself a bit here, but what was interesting is that when, in my bio, if you read my bio, I was born in Mexico and grew up in California. When I moved to California when I was 9 years old, we lived with an aunt, one of my mother's oldest sister, and she would play Kenny Rogers and Neil Diamond over and over again. And this is going to sound really cheesy, but that's how I started to learn English. So when I first listened to or saw the records, it just took me back to that moment when I first was starting to decipher what Kenny Rogers was saying, and trying to learn English from Kenny Rogers, interesting. But anyway, this is another shot of his space. This isn't exactly how we found it. This is after we started going through stuff. And this is what it looked like. Old paneling, paintings were up. He had 8-tracks all over the place. And record players in every room. And these were some of his suits that we started to take down from the closet, which I still have today. I'm trying to figure out what to do with them. Possibly an art project, or maybe I just donate them to someone in need. And this is what, after the whole emotional process of removing everything, then we were left with this. And we're trying to figure out what it is that we do with the space. What was really nice to know, or to experience, was that out of this exploration, for those of you who might know the architectural lingo, this architectural charrette of going through somebody else's life, really played a key role in the creative process of the final design. And so here, we wanted to really open up the space, so we needed to remove the structural wall that you see here. And one of the things that we were able to do is create pieces like this in the new space. So some of this, the old floor joists, and some of these, the old, when we uncovered the walls, it was gorgeous, gorgeous wood that had been living there forever, for years. And so it was a shame for us to discard of them. And so we tried our best to keep some of the best pieces to create permanent furniture pieces like this vanity that you see in our master bathroom. These are old floor joists that we had to, should I go back quickly to the picture? We had to remove because of the existing floor joists. Usually we like to keep those kinds of things, but it was just too warped in some areas. Eric and Breeze will tell you, and we finally decided we needed to remove it. But there was gorgeous wood in between some of these ones that were damaged, so we used some of them as countertops to tables that we have throughout the house. And here you really see the old framing that we used as legs in some of the tables, and we're still continuing to investigate how we might use it throughout. This is a quick sketch that Mark would make. You know, this was, we only do architectural structural drawings for the city. Other than that, we sort of present this to Eric and Breeze like, so what do you think? How do we make this work? You know, and we try to really keep it playful because we like incorporating Eric and Breeze in the creative process. That's part of having the great cast of characters. It really works in all levels, not just let's build this house. Let's figure out how we can do fun pieces too. And so we gave creative liberty to Eric and Breeze to build this piece here, this kitchen island. This is a detail of some of the old boxes that, like you see here, that we found, that we took them apart and used the wood in some of the pieces. And this is what the space looks like today. We kept the stair. It was just, there's so many layers and layers of paint that we decided let's just paint over it. Let's not try to rescue the stair. But we kept the stair because there's just beautiful evidence of the past, scratches on the steps that we wanted to still keep in the house. And we just painted it bright yellow because I love having my own private yellow brick road every day. You know, why not? And then this is the kitchen island that you see at the other side there, what it looks like today in our kitchen. This is another detail of our master bathroom. We found several pieces with the Coke sign that we have found buried in the basement under all kinds of the other pieces of wood that we found. And so we cleaned them up as best as we could, but really liked the raw essence of it. So we kept it, and Mark really wanted it to have it above our bathtub for some reason. Sure. So hence why we creatively posed this picture with the Jack Daniels bottle. You know, Coke and Jack always go nice. So here we found also an old stairway. We found several of those in the back storage room, and we're still exploring how to. These are some stage shots that we had for you today. So this is not how our space normally, as much as we want to, it's not how it normally looks. We're trying to constantly move pieces around. If there are any architects or interior designers in the room, you'll know that this process is endless. You know, we play with parts, see where it fits, and this being our home, it's even more challenging. How do we really want to live in this space, and how do we balance the old and the new? This is another shot, and the other shot of our master bathroom. Really, one of our biggest rooms that we chose to make big is our master bath, because it's where we spend most of our time in the mornings and in the evenings. And I wish I could have my laptop here because it's a beautiful light in this room. Another piece is the back door here to the back of the house. We rescued it, and Eric and Breeze built it to the right height so we can use it as the dividing space between our master bedroom and our master bathroom. And here you see the gorgeous details of the exposed, this is all existing structure that we exposed that's holding up our roof right now. We just figured out another way to insulate our roof and to be able to expose this inside. And then you'll see, I don't know if you can see, but there are a few suitcases, old suitcases of Albert's that we rescued and we're using as storage because we just like the feel for it. And am I forgetting anything? And that's about right. And this is what it looks like today. We painted the facade. We had a bright yellow door as our entry door, which is just awesome to be able to experience this every day. It really does make a difference, and we always get compliments from the neighbors of how much they admire our yellow door. This is what our kitchen looks like today. Again, there's still some pieces. We're still playing with it. We moved into it in January and are still trying to figure out how to live in the space, One of the things that I will highlight is that, to some of you it might sound like, oh, well, they just flip homes. But really, it's more than that to us because we live in them. And we live in them as long as we need to live in them. Some people write books, some people make movies. We like moving from home to home and making it ours. And we like the idea of selling it to the appropriate owner. Who is going to respect the space that we lived in ourselves? Just like we find the respect in old homes that had a past life, we expect people, or we like to sell our homes to people that will respect our new creation of it, our new interpretation of it in a new way. And so, you know, I hope we had this question in mind as I was talking, you know. I welcome you to, you know, as you carry on to your day and your activities, to really ponder about this. You know, what does my existing material life say about me? You know, and if people had to go through something as simple as your playlist in your iPhone or your iPad, you know, how would they interpret who you are? Because that's what I did. I purposely didn't interview Albert Sneeze. I purposely didn't try. I did Google him and found nothing, which I found in this era completely admirable, that Albert had no social media record of any kind, or, you know, online record really for any kind. But I love that. I love that I found nothing about him, and so I really took the opportunity to get to know him through his space, and that was a beautiful experience. So I invite you to continue, you know, to continue asking this question. I do it all the time. Now, as to end, before I end, there's a quote that really, from this book, Andy Warhol, The Philosophy of Andy Warhol, From A to B and Back Again, which I flipped through this many times. And I found, as I was trying to figure out if there was a quote that could summarize what I've been living through, and something that you could take with you as well. And I found one in the chapter of time that I think will resonate with a lot of us. It does with me, and it sort of summarizes to why Mark and I do what we do. They always say that time changes things, but you actually have to change them yourself. Thank you very much.